Cowboy Jim, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for tuning in a little and so on. And thank you for maybe taking a look at hitting that subscribe button. It really doesn't matter. What really does matter is that our Freedom Convoy gets the appropriate recognition that 1/3 of all Canadians who support the Truckers Convoy are hopeful will happen. That Justin Trudeau, I just walked in the door from being downtown Fort Mac, and and I just heard Justin Trudeau making a statement that he is not responsible for what happens to the truckers. And if he isn't responsible, who is? He is the prime minister, is the supposed prime minister of our country. Who is responsible if he isn't? He says it's up to the police. But he is the one that put the Emergencies Act into place. I mean, can we be that stupid that we think that people don't understand? It is Justin Trudeau's responsibility for what happens next, because he has not even indicated a willingness to speak with the truck convoy, the leaders. He doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. He says if it becomes violent, well, then it becomes violent. Well, I guess that's all right, given that he marched with Black Lives Matter, and they are anything but peace-loving. They are a group of people. Their declaration is that all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. But so too do Canadian lives matter. Canadian truckers' lives matter. The farmers matter. Their lives matter. The ranchers' lives matter. We all matter. Which would lead you to wonder, what is the matter with Justin Trudeau? Well, it's in its simplest form, it's narcissism. He suffers from arrogance, grandiose thoughts of himself, as though he were Canada's answer for our issues. He is our issue. Justin Trudeau exemplifies what wealth and privilege and arrogance and superiority, feigned humility represent to blue-collar Canadian workers, truckers, yes, Canadians as a whole. I think it could be said that we may well, as truckers, be considered middle-class citizens. Certainly not upper class. We're a tad bit, little bit better than people who are totally unemployed. Middle class. How many middle-class groups of people are left in this world who are not overly, adversely affected by the wealthy? Entitlement due to the size of your bank account allows people to lord it over one another? No, it's not supposed to. Because we're equal. In every sense of the word, we are equal. Canadians, I don't care what color you are. It's not the skin color. It's the blood. It's, shall we say, the genetics. It's the heart, the soul, the spirit of true Canadians, of which we are all immigrants. We all immigrated in one way or another to this country, whether it be the Irish that came over in the late 1700s, early 1800s, the Coeur de Bois, French, from France primarily, and becoming extraordinary men and women, and our Métis, which Coeur de Bois, an awful lot of Métis mixed in there. And that's a good thing, because it's not my ancestry that entitles me to have an opinion. It is the behavior of my ancestors that does entitle me to have the right to have an opinion. Are you and I going to acquiesce? Are we going to be treated as second-class citizens when we elected that idiot, blackface, Prime Minister of Canada? Are you, as a Canadian, going to allow a government with minimal support? If it weren't for that NDP party, when I think of Canadian political parties, I only think of two: the Liberals, which are Democrats down in the States, the Conservatives, which are Republicans down in the States. Neither one of those groups, north or south of the border, behave themselves universally correctly. If they did, it wouldn't be it would be a full, guaranteed, flat-out election where there was no need to pull in secondary issues and groups. The NDP would not even need exist. They don't do anything. Oh, but they do hold what might be considered the balance of power, because you have three groups vying for one role. It's a lot easier if you only have two groups, and then it's a little bit more cut and dried. But we, as Canadians, are polite. I have never voted Liberal, and I never would vote NDP. But I'm telling you, my conservative background is this. I don't really like half the things that are done under the guise of conservatism, because it's not conservatism. And people whine and complain. In Alberta, we whine and complain, not often. I don't whine much. I try not to complain at all. But we whine about the main power structure being in Ontario and Quebec, and it is. And I have not a blessed thing against either one of those provinces, not at all. I'm not altogether sure which one, in my opinion, would be my favored province, because we are equal. Yes, representation by population means that it does not matter at all out here in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, how we vote at all. Our voting is kind of urinating into the wind. It's a little self-deprecating, because the decisions are already made for us. And who are we out here in Alberta? Well, we're hard-working farmers, ranchers, construction people. In Fort Mac, we are the people group of all colors, all ancestries, whatever. We have one goal, and that is to make a living, clean up the environment, and make it more friendly to nature. And that's what we do. We're cleaning up the greatest oil spill, natural oil spill known to man. in the history of man. The sun heats the riverbanks up in the summer. The oil pours right out from the riverbank straight into the river. And yet we as a people are condemned because of pollution. Over 2 million trees have been planted. Get this, this is so important. In the mines that are being reclaimed as we get the sand up and we heat that oil up and we clean the sand and we put everything back in place as good, but actually better. Because you don't have animals dying from drinking water that is tainted and covered with oil. You don't have moose and so on out there in Tar Lake as they once were, being covered in tar. Well, I guess it'd keep the ticks off, but that's about all. And that's not good for the moose. And our rivers, talk about pollution. Well, let's take a drive downtown Toronto or some such place like that, and let's talk about pollution, children. And, oh, isn't that wonderful over in China? And Pierre, geez, I really despised him too. Oh, dear Lord God in heaven. I truly did. Didn't hate him, but I despised him. I don't know if you can do that. I'm pretty sure you could because, or you can because I did. I hope that's right. But we, as Albertans, are cleaning up the environment. My little kid sister was in the Ottawa protest. She runs truck. My sons both run highway truck. I when I am privileged and honored enough to have a job, I run equipment in Fort Mac. We are independent, free-thinking Canadians with the right to choose. And Justin Trudeau, oh, I mean, the pictures I have in my mind of that man, it's really funny. Standing in India with Indian attire on a stage with a whole bunch of Indian business and government people, and they're looking at Trudeau like, are you out of your cotton-picking mind? See anyone else up here on the stage dressed in our attire that goes back centuries? Or Trudeau with a First Nations feather headband on, looking like a positive idiot. And I don't know what he was doing when he put the black face on. He was probably trying to make sure that Black Lives Matter knew that he was in their corner. Well, there's no doubt he is. He said he is. LGP or whatever that's called. You have the right of choice of your sexuality. And I'll never pick on anyone for that. Not ever. Not never. Trudeau would march with you. He won't even talk to a Canadian trucker. Trudeau says, it's up to them. Screw off, Trudeau. You drew the lines in the sand. You lay the responsibility at our feet? Son, you're not a bright man. Could be you're not a man at all. Because a man has compassion. You're talking about towing all the trucks from Ottawa. You're talking about seizing money that has been donated to support the truckers, the families, to buy fuel. You're talking about canceling their truck insurance. What are you going to do? Have a cruiser pull them off 1/4 of a mile down the way and charge them with operating a truck without insurance? Trudeau, you should be ashamed. And I'm telling you, I am ashamed of you, sir. And I use that loosely, sir. I'm ashamed that our Canadian Prime Minister is, well, I guess if I lived in the States, I'd be ashamed of my president too, quite possibly, but nonetheless. Prime Minister Trudeau, you are bringing shame on us Canadians. And we're polite. But you've gone too far, son. You've gone too far. Your narcissism, it stinks. It reeks. It's the smell of rot. It's the smell of self-indulgence. And I shouldn't have said son. Neither one of my sons would act so arrogant as you. So you go ahead and you do your stuff. You go ahead and you discriminate against Canadian men and women, families who move the product that we as Canadians need, the truckers. You go ahead and you discriminate against them. And we'll vote you the hell out of office. It may take a while because we may never get to vote again, you who desire to be a dictator, and you do, or you wouldn't behave as you do, and you wouldn't laud China for how they handle uprisings. They kill people, you stupid twit. They kill people, otherwise known as innocent people. Arrogance, narcissism. You should be so ashamed. You should be so ashamed. Canadian truckers, you be peaceful. You honor God, you honor country. Don't think of Trudeau as being reflective of Canada. I believe peoples all over the world who are experiencing the joy of the Canadian convoy, you call it a rebellion if you want. They say we want to get rid of Trudeau. Well, who in their right mind wouldn't want to have Trudeau voted out of office? Think about it. It doesn't matter what you look like. I exemplify that. It matters what you are. It matters the guts you have. It matters the courage you have, the rightness of what you say and what you do. I hold you in abject, absolute contempt, Prime Minister of Canada. You go put that black face back on, son. You pretend to be something you aren't. You mock. You mock people of color. Well, you can afford to. You're a product of privilege. Be ashamed, son. Show some humility and own your responsibilities. Own your own sin. Don't dump it at the feet of the police. You put the stupid Emergencies Act in place. Own it. You should be ashamed. Canadian truckers, God bless you. Those of you in Canada who have enough guts to stand with the people who have dedicated their lives to hard work. The men and women who run truck down the road. Shame on you, Trudeau. Shame on you. Shame on you. I don't hate you, son. Quite frankly, I'm ambivalent to you, because you're not worth what you think you are, and you're not. God bless Canada. God bless the United States of America. Trudeau, I'm ashamed of you, son. It didn't take much.